In this 10 to 20 minute yin sequence, we'll be deeply loosening our hips, shoulders, and our spine. Breathing deeply as always. This practice complements our morning mobility, any other practice throughout the day, to be done every night. From the forward fold, come down gently. Bend your knees if need be. Inhale, look up. Expand your breath. Keep your back long as you come down and walk into an A-frame. Walk back until you can keep your heels on the ground. As soon as you start to feel them coming up, just walk forward a little bit so you can keep them grounded. And just sway your hips back and forth a few times. Bend your knees to loosen your shoulders. And we're getting ready to come into a mild inversion. Ground your elbows. The crown of your head stays on the mat, not tilted forward or back. Interlace your fingers for support behind your head and start to walk your feet gently up towards your elbows. You don't have to be at a completely vertical position, but whatever feels comfortable for you. Be aware if you have any issues like glaucoma, high blood pressure, to avoid this inversion. Just come down to your knees and you can do the same thing. From child's pose, we're going to start to flow forward a few times into upward facing dog. Back and forth. Keep the whole of the spine loose. Nice fluid movements. No tension. Very little muscular support in this routine. This is pretty much a pure yin sequence. And in our first pose, in Sphinx, start to gently pull the elbows towards your hips, lengthening throughout your spine. As an option, bring your feet close to your head, bend your knees, and rock your feet from side to side as you look back as your feet hit the ground. We're going to combine a neck stretch, tilting your head to the left and to the right. And throughout this practice, feel free to hold as long as you'd like. You can hold as little as 2 or 3 breaths, or as much as 8 to 12 breaths. Now we're going into a combined movement, a chest opener with your right hand extended back to the side, grounding your shoulder, and the other hand is back like a wing in a half cow face position. Now we're going to come into a reclined cow face. Try to bind your fingers or your hands together, just like a seated cow face, but this time we're reclined. Coming back, we're going to hit Sphinx again. Open up our back. Nice back extension at the end of a day. Maybe from sitting or standing too long. We're going to work the other side. Left hand out, right hand up. Back into our cow face position. And work that back leg, the right leg, over until you feel a pretty good twist. I usually feel a good release in my lower back in this pose. Keep your right hand locked behind your back, and your left hand comes up to join the right. Make small adjustments, walking your hand up your spine, as I need to do. And your feet can come into butterfly position. Slowly moving out of the bind. And we're going to hit Sphinx for the third and last time. Roll your shoulders to neutralize the posture and loosen a little bit. Bending your knees are optional. Slowly move back into your child's position. Keeping your yoga block in front of you, extend your left leg. Thread your left arm underneath your chest. And you can position your yoga block either under your forehead in one of the two positions or back under your left hip to let yourself ground down into the mat. Let gravity just start to press down and loosen up those yin tissues. Transitioning into the next pose, we're going to circle our hips a little bit from tabletop. Take a nice big step forward with your left leg. Twist to your left, working as many angles as possible. And use that block in any of the three positions to lower your elbows down to it. Really sink down into dragon. And feel the hip just start to open up. Feel free to let your left knee move to the left side. In yin, we're not so concerned with alignment. I like to start off the poses in good alignment and just let my body fall into position naturally. Here in half saddle, use that yoga block again under your left hip, coming down into any of three positions, first on your hands, then elbows, then down to the backs of your shoulders. Coming at a half saddle into deer. Nice big inhale, space in your spine as we start to rock to the right side and use the block for support. And ground and hold for time. From deer, we're going right into one-legged king pigeon, making full use of that yoga block again under your left hip, which will allow you to bring that right leg pretty straight, right over your right knee, and to allow for a 90-degree bend in your left leg. Once you inhale and get some space, just collapse forward. Remove the yoga block, and we're going to transition into a full straddle. We want that pelvis to be leaning forward in any of these forward bends. This will help with the tilt we need. And you can prop up anything you need under your knees, like bolsters, pillows, blankets. This is the first of two straddles we'll be doing, so just come into it gently. Your hands down, coming up into a reverse plank, squeezing feet together, squeezing your glutes, releasing the hip work we just finished. Not doing any yang-oriented work here. Relaxing still the muscular tissues. Back into child's pose. And on this next right side, we'll demonstrate without the use of a yoga block this time. Thread your right hand through as you extend your right leg back to the side. And in the transition, we'll do a slight spinal wave. Big step forward with your right foot. Twist to the right and look at your back foot. Loosening up our internal rotators and our lower back. Taking advantage of any kind of twists in the practice that we can muster up. And from our dragon, come straight down to our elbows. Try to touch forehead to the mat, extending the arms as far out as they'll go. Getting a bit of a shoulder stretch as well. Anytime we can combine 2 or 3 movements, working different joints, we'll try to do that in the practice. Back into half saddle. Make sure your left knee doesn't come up off the ground. And we're going down step by step into our second phase onto the elbows. And if this is accessible to us, we'll come down and relax in a reclined supine position. Come out of these postures slowly. Again, these are yin movements. Takes some time to come in and out of them, working into those deep tissues. And from deer, have a better angle of seeing the rocking action, some dynamic movement before we go into some static yin work. Hold for time here. That might be some nights as few as 3 breaths or as many up to 12 deep breaths. That long ocean breath. You can do 4 6-second inhale followed by an equal exhale. And relaxing into one-legged king pigeon, completely releasing and letting go. Let the stress dissolve, muscular tension dissolve, and really work those yin tissues. And one of my favorite ways to work those yin tissues is in the straddle, or a pancake, we call it. This time I'm holding onto the edges of the feet and getting a little bit of an elbow twist. Rotating it inside and out before we come forward into a long reaching release. Slowly coming back to the long side of your mat, sitting up, releasing your chest, your elbows, squeezing your feet together and your glutes. And we're going to come into a seated hammock, taking the transition back and forth. Magically, we have our cedar yoga block. Coming into a yin style butterfly, using that high third position of the block to rest our head. Here we're demonstrating the second position, second setting of the block, extending our legs out into a caterpillar or a Western intense stretch. Inhale, get some space, look up. As you exhale, releasing all muscular tension. Don't try to activate your quadriceps or your thighs. Just completely relax into caterpillar using any kind of a bolster you have available, blanket, pillow, several yoga blocks, whatever you have. To finish our practice, one final neutralizing pose, squeezing the feet together, lifting high on an inhale, coming down on an exhale into corpse pose, our final meditation for a good night's sleep.